Hello. Thank you for joining me on today's show Between the Spreadsheets. I've got with me, if we're not in the studio today, we're filming remotely, but I've got with me Ray Tammam. Ray's a financial advisor. He's probably one of the best in the business, and he's come to tell us why you should have proper financial planning. Because you're more than just a financial planner, aren't you, Ray?
Thank you for the kind introduction. Yeah, I've done this sort of near enough 25 years now. So I'm an independent financial advisor, but also a chartered financial planner as well. So lots of exams. I believe the more you know, the better advice you can give, essentially.
Absolutely. So, what does a chartered financial planner do that is different from a standard independent financial advisor?
The
And
main
the
thing
one's
is
a bit of a
just
salesman.
so go on. No, go on. No, I mean the main thing is it's similar to a chartered accountant, I guess. They just tend to be more qualified, perhaps have more. Well, definitely have more exams. I think I've taken over 200 financial exams so far.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it just means more qualifications, and then
That's a lot
it
of
tends to help.
exams.
Yeah, it's a lot of exams.
I don't think I've taken 10% of that
Yeah.
throughout my whole
Okay.
life.
Wow. Okay. You're very fortunate then, because I don't enjoy them. I don't enjoy them
No,
really. I'm not a
no, I
natural.
don't.
I have to put
No.
quite a lot of work into it.
Right.
So
So this is a
I'm well
real
used to
career
them.
move. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
a
Just
real
as I
career
say,
move.
it really genuinely is. I just didn't like the fact, even early in my career, that if someone asked a question, I didn't know the answer. So I try and limit the chance of that happening again, really, by having a pretty good knowledge across the board, really.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I know. I've always been a big fan of people planning for the future. I know it's very difficult for a lot of people to do this, but pensions and savings plans, I think I think you should have one from as younger age as possible. I took out a pension when
Absolutely.
I was 18,
Yeah,
but
brilliant.
why
Yeah.
don't people take out more pension plans, especially the
So
self-employed?
it's a very good question. There's a little bit of bad press going back to probably our parents' generation, back to Robert Maxwell, or I don't know, or Equitable Life a bit more recently, perhaps, as being well known, one or two issues. There's a lot of urban myths, I think, about pensions and certain issues and there were some issues going back, but now the modern ones are just, saying modern, even in the last sort of 15 years, very, very flexible, but, frankly, quite low cost as well. And I think people just don't perhaps understand the benefits, because there's some, as you well know, there's some fantastic benefits, particularly with the tax situation, and people are generally living longer. So we need to build up a bigger pot for retirement to avoid, having a salary here and then dropping dramatically down when we actually retire. But self-employed, again, because they're not automatically given a pension scheme from an employer, they sometimes think, well, I'll just concentrate on this and I'll sort out a pension a bit later. I spoke to someone this morning, same situation, and they often don't get around to it. But it's it's such an easy way of saving tax.
Yeah. Do you think it's affordability?
Can be.
Or
Yeah. Can be
Yeah.
affordability, and I think people generally don't pay enough into pensions. And the reason is, and I guess to an extent, understandably, they'd rather spend it on a night out, an extra night out, an extra takeaway, buying something else for the kids, or whatever it may be. But I see a lot of people, and the vast majority who haven't had advice regret not starting a pension earlier and putting more money in once they hit sort of 50 plus.
Do you know what I find, Ray? I don't know if you find this, but I know as an accountant, we're always looking at people's profits more than savings. But I often find that when people do take out savings plans and they're committed to them, or pensions, and even work with the pensions to maybe buy property through them or all sorts of things, I often find that it doesn't make any difference to them. Once it's the decision made and they're doing it, they don't realise that £100 here, £100 there. It doesn't make any difference, because the amount of money that people squander is unbelievable. I mean, one of the gentlemen that works for me, one of our accountants, many years ago, he was getting married. This is a long time ago. And he was saying, how's he going to afford a mortgage and this and that and the other? And I said, you know what happens is that you just stop doing certain types of things, and you don't find you've got any less money, and you find that you are able to afford the mortgage and things that go with it. Do you find that with your clients?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's so easy to spend money now, particularly people are using cash a lot less, and it's direct debits. everything's on a card. You sort of don't notice it going out as much. But I think, I mean, your comment before was brilliant, and it's so good that you started a pension early, because it makes a massive difference. And people don't realize, one of the other comments you said, which was great, because a lot of accountants don't know, it can be very, very tax advantageous for people to own their commercial premises or own a commercial premises within
just
their pension
give us a
scheme.
few tricks for that, because the vast majority of people watching this will own small businesses. So just give them a little trick of a SaaS.
Well, briefly, I mean, and it is a trick, really, but it's very much legal. It's just not well publicized. So essentially, I'll try and keep it as short as I can. But essentially, most businesses say are paying rent, on some premises. So if you've got money in your pension, or you can put some money in a pension, you can even use previous ones to essentially buy the commercial premises. So let's say, just random figures, the building is £100,000, you're paying £5,000 a year rent. You've got £100,000 in your pensions, fortuitously, for this example. The pension buys the commercial premises. You carry on paying your £5,000 a month rent, but that goes into your own pension fund. Also, it's tax-free. So compared to owning it, as you know, Stephen, individually or as a limited company, you're going to pay tax on any rental income you normally receive. You don't pay a penny tax on the money going into the pension. And also, you buy it for 100 grand, you sell it in 20 years for 200. You'd normally be hit with capital gains tax or corporation tax. Again, within a pension, there is zero tax to pay while it's growing on that. And finally, you're paying £5,000 a year rent, as it is now, as you well know. That comes off as a business expense. You get your tax back on it. So it's almost like you're being paid to actually do this. Amazing.
And there's some tax incentives beyond that. Because I know.
Once it's in a pension, and it doesn't really matter whether it's invested in commercial property or it's in stocks and shares, that we would normally help people with. Lots of people do both to diversify, but it basically grows tax-free, as we've said, no matter what type of investment it is over many years. So the compounding effect is fantastic of that. And then when people reach sort of mid-50s and beyond, they can take the benefits from the pension. The first 25% is tax-free, even if they're still working, even if they're a high rate taxpayer or an additional rate taxpayer. And then the rest of it is just taken as and when they need it, typically as a wage, and they pay normal income tax on that, but we can help control that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because especially these days, more than 50% of all tax planning involve a pension.
Right.
So, it's not like the old days where everything you did, there was some tax incentive or there was an angle.
But, correct. So many loopholes, eventually legal loopholes, have gone. So the government wants to promote people paying into their own pensions because it doesn't want to pay out billions in benefits in later life. So it's almost legally bribing you.
No, it's take it from me. If you've not got a pension, get a pension. If you're skint, still get a pension. And if you do, I don't deal in pensions, and I'm not a financial advisor, but do speak to a financial advisor. And if you want to speak to Ray, contact him direct, or contact me if you're a bit shy, and I'll put you on to Ray. So his number will come up soon, and you can contact direct. But I mean, people have what we had now. We've had about 10 minutes of talking about pensions, and people are going to switch off now. It's as bad as talking about tax, So tell me a little bit about how you got into being an IFA.
Okay, thank you. Probably an unusual story. So about 25 years ago, I was working in the cinema industry. Do you remember the old MGM cinemas?
I do. They're not here anymore.
So no, they're not here. No. So I worked as a sort of sales manager in effect for them, and I was working all over the country. And like you from Manchester, I thought I'd quite like to sort of come home and see the family more and things like that. Although I was single at the time, but parents, etc., brother. And I saw an advert for a job in Manchester that was along the lines of, are you good with numbers? Are you good at talking to people? Several other things. I was like, yep. Went through. It turned out to be a trainee financial advisor role at Barclays. And they were specifically, for the first time ever, taking people on from outside of the industry. So they wanted people who didn't work in the bank and who weren't the old man from the Prue, if you remember them, Stephen. So they wanted. So nationally, 3 people got taken on, and I was one of them.
You know, I
So
thought something similar to you when I was a late teen, and I went to see Canada Life at the time,
yeah,
and I had the opposite experience from you because
oh,
they just wanted salesmen. Honestly,
yeah,
I was a foot
yeah,
in the door salesman,
yeah,
and part of my training was just making an appointment with anybody, didn't matter who, just for
yeah,
practice.
yeah.
So naively, I went to see my mom and her husband, and within 10 minutes, the guy was pushing and pushing, and I thought, "Whoa, not
Uh,
for me this anymore," you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I went and did something else. Yeah.
But
But you had a
yeah,
good experience.
it's got rather better. Yeah, no, I did have a good experience. I mean, obviously, you could say it's a sales role. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's
Not
very
anymore. It's
highly
not a bad thing
no,
anymore.
no,
No,
no.
it used
It's
to be.
highly regulated,
Yeah,
and it's. I can't say it's impossible. Like in any industry, it's possible, but it's very difficult for there to be bad apples and to give terrible advice and things like that. There's always obviously a handful of exceptions, but generally speaking, the advice is regulated. It's checked. We have our own internal compliance department at Fairstone, the company I work for. It's very strict, and it's about doing the right thing. So lots of what we do, people pay a flat fee for it. So we're not actually incentivized with pensions or investments just to sort of move it around for the sake of it. Lots of advisors are not independent. They're known as restricted financial advisors because they have a much smaller panel of companies that they choose to give all their business to, and they can still accept commission. We don't have that. As being independent, we have access to the whole of the market, and we just go and we often review people's arrangements because you'll know, Stephen, when you're doing people's tax or your colleagues are, things can get left. So people may have a pension or they've got investments that should be reviewed at least once every 12 months, and if they hadn't been, it's very much worth seeing someone like me, an independent financial advisor, to have a
yeah,
look at that because
absolutely.
things change. Brexit, COVID, two massive examples
Mm.
in the last couple of years alone, but things change, so it's really important to make sure they're on track.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's so important. I actually don't understand why they don't teach this stuff in schools.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
I
No, I
totally
know
agree.
people think I'm
Yeah.
joking when I say things like this, but I'm not. I don't understand why they
No,
don't
I agree,
teach.
100%. I
Yeah,
mean, I wish I got taught. I mean, this in school. I mean, part of the reason why I really enjoy the job, as you can probably tell, so enthusiastic, and I was then, was that I thought, well, hang on, I'm learning about things that will actually help me and my family to know more about pensions and
yeah, it's true.
mortgages and investments. And
It's
it's
true.
similar on your side, of course, isn't it? To that, if you know for yourself, and it's
Mm.
just about helping people, you're trying to make them more money or save them tax or protect the family.
Yeah.
Via various insurances, if God forbid something happens to them. So they should definitely teach more in schools.
Yeah, because it's not just about teaching more advanced things of how to make more profit or how to save tax. It's in schools. You get people leaving and they don't even know what a bank account is or what
Yeah,
checks are like. And I've talked to
absolutely.
people sometimes in business, especially when they're new in business, and they're just surprised at the way the banks operate and the way solicitors operate and the way
Yeah,
the general money world operates. It amazes me, but
yeah,
then again,
absolutely.
I'm pushing 60, so I've been in business a long time,
Yeah.
so it's second nature to me. So going throughout your life, you help people with the financial affairs. Have you got any
Yeah.
horror stories through your days?
Of
Uh, just horror stories, just with people, the mess they've been in or the monies that have gone the wrong way. I mean,
I
presumably you
think,
push work
yeah. I
as
mean,
well.
I can think of one because hopefully I can't think of any horror stories from my own clients, but I'm bound to say that.
Yeah,
But it is true.
yeah,
I do remember there was one gentleman years ago who had an enormous amount of shares in one company. It was a company he had a connection with, so we didn't own the company, but
yeah,
had an awful lot of money in shares. And we've always gone through don't put all your eggs in one basket, spread the risk. And he was absolutely insistent that this company was fantastic, and he'd done quite well on paper, made a lot of money. And my advice was I understand what you're saying, but you really should diversify. Unexpected things happen. Why don't you start to go into other investments, etc., etc., etc. He had, I think it was best part of £1 million worth of these shares, and for various reasons, within a matter of weeks, they crashed through the floor to be basically worthless because he didn't
yeah,
follow the
yeah.
advice to diversify. Sadly, I felt very sorry for him, but that's one of the ones that sticks in my
I've
mind,
been
as a,
guilty of that.
unfortunately.
I've been
Right?
many years ago. It was a friend of mine, a sort of more distant friend, was like the guy that used to do my financial stuff. I didn't have
Yeah,
much of it in those days. It was more, just like you said, the yearly review, and
Yes.
a friend who was very excited about his best pal in New York was jumping on these stocks and shares. And I didn't really want to do it, but I got myself embroiled in it, and I put £1,000 into it.
Yeah.
And every day I was watching it lose money.
Yeah.
And this friend said, no, it'll go up. That's what happens. And
Yeah.
eventually it got to nothing. I thought, right. And in the end, I thought, thank God it's all gone now. I don't have to do this again.
Yeah. No, it's just, I mean, that sort of general guidance that has not changed over the years. You know, it's spread it all, have it in lots of different things. And you might lose out on the odd share that would rocket, but you just don't know. As you know, so many household names have gone in the last few years alone, and who would have on earth would have expected that to happen to? I don't know. House of Fraser and obviously plenty of other ones, huge banks in America. So it's just spread it out. The stock market, stocks and shares do very well. They go up and down. You can get back less than you put in, is the disclaimer. Obviously, we have to give people. But generally speaking, if you leave it in a long time, very similar to property, you'd be very unfortunate to actually lose money. But we manage it all for people. We choose the investment managers. We oversee them to make it really easy, because people are not financial experts generally. They're good at their job. I probably wouldn't be much good if I did their job. That's what I often mention to people, but I'm good at mine. My colleagues are, and the investment managers are. That's all they do all day, every day. In the same way, on your side, some of the many exams I've taken are tax exams. I can do a tax return, but I wouldn't do it as well as you and your colleagues, because you're doing an enormous amount of them rather than me doing it once a year. So I have an accountant to do that, although I could do it myself.
We're all specialists now, especially in the financial world, aren't we? More and more so. Well, I get asked a lot, and I've done a few podcasts on this as well. It's probably not under your remit, but you must get asked about Bitcoin. What's your general attitude to Bitcoin?
Okay, it's a good question. We do get asked. I mean, all I can say is it's a bit of an official answer, but it's just we don't advise people go in it, and that's not a comment on whether we think it'll go up or down. It's just because it's unregulated. It's still very new. It's incredibly volatile. You do hear stories about people who've made lots of money. Obviously, you don't know how many of those are true. You don't hear about most people who lose money or have their Bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies stolen from their virtual wallets, which is a big issue. It's so new. So could those types of currency become more mainstream in the future? They could, but it's incredibly, incredibly risky. So if anyone's going to get involved in them, do as much research as you can, and very much only put in what you can afford to lose. You have to assume you will lose every penny. And could you manage? If that's the case, you may want to do that if you're quite a high risk person. But we're not at the stage in the financial services industry where we are recommending or having that as part of a portfolio or anything like that. Just too high risk.
Do you know anybody watching your answer to that question and comparing it to my answer to that question will see how polite and professional you are? I just said it's all a little bollocks and don't buy it.
Yours is the slightly more direct version of
you get sick of it. You say to people, run the businesses, look after your business, invest in your business. Don't worry. My attitude towards savings policies and these types of things, it's something you should have. It's just have it. Just have it. You're not going to make as much money from investing in a savings plan as you will from your own business, but have it all. Because one
exactly. Again, it's spreading the risk. So when I started with Barclays, I saw a lot of businesses, and the phrase we used to hear, we used to make a bit of a joke about it when he talks about pensions. My business is my pension. And a very experienced Barclays bank manager told me, who'd been in the game for many years before I joined, was he's seen, sadly, so many businesses either struggle or go bump, and suddenly they have no pension. So we always say to people, hopefully your business is part of your pension, but your overall planning should include an actual pension to diversify. And then the worst problem they're ever going to have is they sell the business for a lot of money and they have a pension on top, which is not a bad problem to have, to be too wealthy.
No, and it's my to this what I'm trying to get across here is that if out of the millions of people that are going to watch this video, out of all the billions that are going to watch it, if we can just get one person to set themselves up properly financially and become aware
Yeah.
of it's not just about going out there selling, sell, or
Yeah.
buy, or doing deals, or trying to keep your VAT bill down. There's also, let's look at the bigger picture, and I think a lot of that includes making sure you've got a will. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's some tax saving potential in having wills, especially as you start getting to trusts and whatnot. And then you've got
looking at inheritance tax mitigation. Yeah,
that's right. And I mean, you've got insurance policies as well that needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
People don't often die and leave the family in the lurch because they've got no money. They get too ill to work and leave the family. So all these things should be looked at. So on I mean, on our parting, your parting words, what would you like to say to people?
What would I like to say? I guess it would be, if you haven't got one already, go and see an independent financial advisor. Most will do a free initial
say,
consultation.
Come and see me. Come and see
me.
And see.
Well, I was trying not to be too, yes, I am. I will be happy, obviously, to speak to people I can, especially in the Northwest. They're my main area for sort of face-to-face visit, but can obviously do video calls, etc., further afield in the UK. Happy to have a chat. There is a free initial consultation, and we look at all the main areas of finance. So we look at investments, pensions, insurance, like life insurance, not car insurance, and also the mortgage and property side. And then on the edge of that, working with people like Stephen, looking at the inheritance tax side and trying to mitigate that, which is a problem. There's a 40% flat rate bill over a certain amount for that, which people don't realize sometimes, that there is ways to legally either reduce it or to delay it, or sometimes to mitigate it in full. So we try and make it a one-stop shop.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Well, Ray, thank you for joining me.
Okay. Thank you.
It's been fun. As much as we can make pensions fun, it's been fun.
Yes, I'm trying my best to be enthusiastic about pension. Yeah.
So thank you everybody for joining me again. Stephen signing off at Between the Spreadsheets, and I'll see you on our next show or on our weekly broadcast, whichever comes first. So enjoy the rest of the week and enjoy the rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.